Welcome to this week's Endurance for Everyone podcast.
The following program is for entertainment purposes only. Though the hosts of this show are certified Ironman coaches, their attempts at long-course triathlons and endurance events should not be taken as an endorsement for you to do something stupid too. You should make your own bad decisions, then podcast about it. Now, let's start the show.
Hey, this is John Harris.
And this is Rob Bozovich.
And Endurance is for Everyone, and this is the Endurance for Everyone podcast.
Welcome to episode 156 of the Endurance for Everyone podcast. If you tuned in Monday, you would have heard our first part of a two-part interview with Vanessa Snyder from our group and recent Ironman completionist. We went through her early life, both in living and in her fitness career. And, without getting too far into it, she, came up through college and was very fit. Her job is a fitness instructor at the YMCA, yet she, did have some struggles or getting into triathlon, mostly because she really didn't care so much for the biking aspect. She shared some of the things she did to help get over that. You're going to get a lot more of that in today's show because, and you'll hear it from Vanessa herself, that training for a sprint and Olympic length triathlon is much different than training for an Ironman, because when there's something you don't like, kind of like that, it feels like that grain of sand in your shoe, it just kind of wears at you. And going shorter on the bike, being relative there and talking about maybe a half hour or an hour for a training ride is going to be much different than being on the bike all day. So that's what we're going to get into today, is talking about her training for the Ironman, and that pretty much took up about a year of her life in doing so, how she balanced her work life, which is much different than most of us, going from, desk or, a sedentary, because she is the fitness, instructor at the YMCA. As such, she has to, teach classes, and she had to, not, overtrain. She had to watch herself and really pay attention because she didn't want to get injured and basically, I don't want to say waste, because, training can be fun, but, if your goal is to do the race and you train too hard, you don't get to the start line, that doesn't help out. So you'll hear all about those training tales of hers and all about her Ironman race in Lake Placid. Without further ado, here's that interview. Hey guys, it's Rob back again here. We're kind of doing a two-part show. Part one, we had Vanessa on here, and that she was on Monday's show. We went through and talked all about her, athletic, I'm going to say, career, and what she did through high school and college and so forth. That led her to, swimming and running, led her eventually to triathlon, and she talked about short course, sprints and, sprint distance, and even 73, which isn't quite short. In this second part of the interview here, we're going to go ahead and talk all about her Ironman training that she had done for Lake Placid and the race that she, spoiler, just completed successfully. When I say just, it's been a little bit now, but we've both been a little busy. But she just completed that here within the last month or two up in Lake Placid. So without further ado, Vanessa, right where I cut you off last time was you had, like I said, gone through the 73s and some of the racing. Yep. You had got the Jameis bike, and this is where I was leading you down, because you had, I know, and you had started to share that you had gotten a new bike. Well, new to you. I know it wasn't brand new, but it's your Cannondale. So I didn't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about that, and then just to recap, and then really I just want to dedicate as much time. We got a whole nother hour here, maybe about half of how all your training went and half about your race, because I haven't directly talked with you about your race, but I have seen some of your posts, and I've heard your one interview elsewhere. So I know there's some you had some things to navigate through up at Lake Placid. So I'm going to go ahead and get quiet for a little bit, let you talk, interject and ask questions as we go through.
Okay, sounds good. All right. Yeah. Hey guys. Back here just discussing part two. I think we just left off as Rob had said that I had got a much better bike than my average mountain bike, and it was a Janus Ventura. And I kept telling Rob constantly, I'm like, I hate biking, I hate biking. And he kept saying, get a better bike, get a better bike. When you get a better bike, you're not going to hate it as much. And
Yeah, I'm going to
honestly,
jump in and interject, and
yep,
that
go
is
for it.
pretty much exactly how I had said it because, and I guess I'm a very, if I like something, I have to like think that everybody likes it. So like
Right.
I love cycling, even though I'm not built like a cyclist. I love it. I love any day I can get out on two bars. So the fact that you were just like how much you loathed it, I'm like she's not comfortable. She doesn't like it. She needs to find what's going to fit her, or at least fit her
Yeah.
better. And I think she's going to really enjoy this.
Yeah. And I mean, that's so true because honestly, like, I know this is going to sound crazy to a lot of people, but biking really hurt me actually. Like, I never had so many injuries. I didn't, I never, I could run every single day, 7 days a week and not have a problem. Um, Very rarely would I have an injury or would I have an ache or a pain. But then I entered the cycling world, and honestly, it caused me so many problems in my hips and my lower back and just everything. I was just having so many problems with the Jameis that, I thought, well, probably if I do get this new bike, and if I get fitted, it probably will help me. And my one biking friend, Rob knows him very well. He knew someone who was looking to get rid of a bike that would fit me perfectly. I actually went to Michigan with my husband. He works in Detroit, and occasionally, not all the time, but I got sized, fitted, aka at one of the tri shops in Detroit, and we actually looked at buying a Cannondale there. It was the version above the version that I actually purchased. I purchased the CAD 10, and I was looking at, going between a tri bike and a road bike, and I was kind of like aiming towards a tri bike, just because at the time I was thinking I would, do more triathlons, which overall, yeah, I am going to do more triathlons than I am bike races, but, like the road biking races. But I think the tri bike will come eventually down the road. But, at the time, it was a lot better than what I had currently had. So,
Can I jump in on one
yeah,
thing here? And
yeah,
I
go
think I
for it.
had shared this with you, and this is something, and then blah blah blah. I believe I shared it with you at some point. And the first thing I had heard a decade ago, somebody said buy the bike for what you're going to do. So I had
Yep,
bought a used tri bike off eBay. It fit. I loved it. I used it, etc. And much to the same that you're saying is, I was looking at tri bikes thinking try, because that's all I'm going to do in racing. But
right,
what the difference, and I'm going to say for you, and I encourage this then still do, and I'll stick with it. I even said you probably want to go with a road bike with clip-on aero bars. And
right,
for
right,
non-technical people, the tri bike has a slight different geometry. In addition, the aero bars are it looks like bull horns. It's all one setup that's all built together. But a road bike, you're going to have when I say the drops, the bars that look like your classic, they go out, they curl down, and then you can add your set of aero bars to them. Now, you get a little different braking and shifting. A tri bike's going to have a flat bars with basically it's either go or stop. You're either in aero, and your shifters are usually out on the end of your aero bars, and your road bike, your shifters are going to be usually built into your brake levers. But the reason why I was sharing that with you, and I wanted to make sure we interject that here,
yeah,
is even if you're doing now, if you're going to be some things you and I talk about offline, I won't pull it in here, but if you continue to go down the road that it looks like you're going to go down, a tri bike is fantastic for when you can get aero, meaning get down out of the
right,
wind, stay
right.
down for a long time. But the 9 out of 10, or I'm actually going to say 99% of the rides you're doing, your road bike is going to be a much better machine for you because we live in the hills, not in the flats. And,
Right.
you're not going arrow uphill. And the road bike is it's a better tool for 99% of your riding. But as you progress through your career, if it's something where if you're going to continue with Ironman and longer distances, it's one of those where the tri bike is going to be far superior in the racing aspect of it, but you're going to find yourself on your road bike the majority of your time in training.
Exactly. And I mean, Rob was telling me that, and my other friend Mike, Mike was really against the tri bike because he obviously wanted me to do more bike races, uh, road biking races, and so I purchased the CAD 10. From just a local guy. It was never ridden on the road. He purchased it and he didn't, he bought another bike. He didn't do anything with it. So I kind of got a steal on a CAD 10. We paid $1,000 for it. It was originally $3,500 with everything that, he had done to it, and, all the good stuff that goes along with that he added to the bike. And honestly, I can say to this day, I truly love it. The last 4 days, I've literally been on it every single day. And I just can't even begin to tell you guys, like, yeah, it's definitely the bike, like you got to get something that fits you because you're going to be in a lot of pain. I was never in any pain whatsoever on the bike, throughout training or, during the day of the race or post race, for the Ironman. I did have a little bit of sciatica problems, after I reached like the 90-mile distance in my rides and stuff for like training. But, I mean, I feel like you're going to have a little bit of problems when your body is not used to riding 90 miles at a time. So it wasn't like a consecutive problem. It would just happen a fair amount when I would ride extremely long, 4 or 5 hours on the bike, and then I would jump off and do a run. So, which I didn't really do too many brick workouts, but, for this training for Lake Placid, I just didn't, and my training didn't really call for it. And honestly, I'm a big person for like mentally, like if I know I can do it, I don't need to do it. Cause I think it's physically, I know I can do it. I just have to get my brain mentally, in that same boat. And as long as I mentally know that I can do it, I don't really need to practice it too much. I mean, as long as I know I can be quick, and I literally like visualize everything that I do. So like running through it in my mind, like 20,000 times, is going to be better for me than continuing to practice something that's not really going to help me, in that aspect of things. So yeah, I got the new bike, and then,
So
I don't know.
let's talk a little bit about your training here now,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
specifically what you did, and then we'll
Yeah.
get into. And I'm not picking it apart too much. A, I'm not a coach. B, you've completed a race twice the distance that I've ever done. So let's just work through some parts of it and some
Yeah.
common knowledge and some where we're at. But I remember in the first part, at least, or maybe offline, you told me you had followed a training plan from the Be Iron Fit book, which I believe Don
Yep.
Fink might be the author on that one. I have the
Yep.
same book. I got it when I first started looking at tries or longer tries, years ago, but going back to 2009, 10 time frame. Anyways, so there
Right.
there are just outlines right there in there. I've also followed some beginning triathlete ones. Obviously now John is taking care of and doing things for me. But so that said, and this is where when I don't know, I forget. Is there beginner, intermediate, etc.? What plans are in the book there, and which one did you start doing? And when I say roughly what it called for, I know it's going to change based on your cycles, and we'll get into that.
Right.
Whether you're in a build phase, a fallback week, or whatever, that's all going to
Yeah.
vary. But roughly, what was it like for you?
Um, well, overall, uh, I guess after I did the 70.3, in May of 2017, I really didn't take much time off. I mean, like I did, but I don't know. I guess like training's like a part of my life. Like I'm not ever gonna not be exercising. It's just me. I wake up every morning. It's something I do. So when I don't wake up in the morning and I don't do something, uh, when I wake up in the morning and I don't do something, it's really, odd for me. So I really, honestly, I just kept doing what I normally was doing. I obviously didn't swim maybe as long or run maybe as long. I did kind of dial it back for like a month, and then I, amped it up again because I knew I had registered for Lake Placid, and I knew that I, obviously like I needed to amp up my training, for January and kind of like start to have a little bit more of a base than what I already did going into that. So I continued through the remainder of the months from like, after July, I guess June, like I kind of took it easy in June. I did some fun little races, nothing, too serious, but just some fun. And then I started to amp it up just slightly, not a lot, but just slightly. And, just kind of went through that. I did purchase the Be Iron Fit book, and I I don't know. I guess I knew like I'm kind of a competitive person. I'm not necessarily competitive with other people. I'm extremely competitive with myself. So I knew if I chose just like to finish plan, I wasn't going to be satisfied with that internally. Which, most people who do an Ironman, that's pretty much their goal. And ideally, yeah, that was my goal. But I knew I could do better than just cross the line in 17 hours, I mean, I was training a lot and I knew it was possible. So I went with the intermediate plan. I didn't obviously go with the elite plan or the advanced plan just because I teach a lot of fitness classes at the Y. Like I had said earlier in part one, like I am a fitness instructor and I do that like all day, every day. Um, Not on Sundays, sometimes on Saturdays, but not always on Saturdays and Sundays, just occasionally. And it's a lot. I mean, yeah, it might be great that I don't sit at a desk all day, but when you're training for an Ironman, all that little extra movement is a lot, and it makes you exhausted. So
Yeah. One
I,
question here then,
yeah,
and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to jump in,
no,
cut you off or anything like that,
no, no, no,
but
no, you're
with
good.
it, and I'm gonna guide us a little bit here.
Yeah.
So, what did the plan, and I'm going to say this in a loving way, that
Hmm.
you're an outlier. You're the freak here that does way more workouts than anyone I've ever known. And I say that with love and affection because
Right.
I would be the same person if I was in your job because and I'm going to ask this. Where I'm going to ask, like, kind of leading towards substitutions and so forth. What did the
Right.
plan call for? I'm going to just say, like, was it like 5, 6 workouts a week? And we already know that you're doing that at work. Did you then have to make
Right.
some substitutions? As in, okay, I'm going to skip the 20-mile bike ride because I just did a 2 hours, 2 hours of spin plus body pump,
Right.
etc. Like, what did it call
Right.
for? What did you end up doing?
Well, basically, the plan basically called for 2 workouts a day. I was clearly doing like 3 to 4 workouts a day, uh, just because of my life and my job. Um, and I'm kind of a little bit of a perfectionist, so I always felt like more money in the bank is better for me, just
Right.
because I work better that way, mentally. And it was basically 2 workouts a day, like Monday through Friday. Which, for example, like Mondays were either a rest day, which normally were for me. I would do like an easy swim, and I would like teach, my silver sneakers class at the Y. And then like Tuesday would be like I teach body pump for an hour, which is, a strength class, a full body strength class, in the morning. And then I would teach spinning at the Y, for 45 minutes, and pretty much like spin. If I'm teaching spin for 45 minutes, that's for me, I mean, I made it equivalent to like an hour and 15-minute ride, an hour and, 30-minute ride outside, because that's basically the type of workout that I was getting. Um,
Right.
so, like that was like Tuesday. Now, occasionally, I mean, on Tuesdays, I would, if I wanted a little bit more cardio and I had the time, I would, my dogs, I have 2 dogs, and they need to be ran pretty much every day or at least every other day.
Mm-hmm.
And I would also take them for like a 30 to 45-minute run, just depending on how I felt. Obviously I wasn't lifting extremely heavy in body pump on my legs anyway. I was focusing more on like my upper body, like my, waist up, because I was getting so much, um, leg work that I didn't really need the leg workout, but I still needed my legs and my core to be strong, which was, extremely important for the race.
Right.
But, so I did that. And then like Wednesdays, for example, would call for like a 45-minute run, a core workout, and like 45-minute swim. And, like for the most part, I mean, that's pretty much what I did Monday through Friday. It just went down like every Tuesday and Thursday were the same. Every Wednesday and Friday were the same. Sometimes I would switch my Fridays. Like I would do my Friday workout on Mondays because by the time Friday comes along and I have taught all those classes, I'm really tired.
So you got to be beat. Yeah.
Yeah. Like when Friday morning rolls around, it's like the last thing I want to do is wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and, work out. So there were days where I did switch my, my Monday morning rest day, to my Friday, just because of my schedule.
Yeah, and that's important.
Honestly,
I really glad to hear you say that, because you are, like I said, once again, you're in my mind, when I say next to an elite, as much as you're working out because of what you're doing for work. And
right.
It we all get those days where it's not going to work, or consecutive, like you're saying, fatigue and so forth. It's good to hear that the other side, the upper athletes, you have the
Right.
same struggles as everyday Joes.
Exactly. And, like for me, in all honesty, like I'm not going to lie. There were times throughout my training, like, that I'd wake up and I'd be like, yes, I can't wait to do this. And then there'd be other days where like Saturday morning, if I did do that Friday workout and then Saturday morning, I had to do like a 2-3 hour long run, and I would wake up on Saturday morning and that's the last thing I wanted to do. I was just so tired. I just wanted to sleep all day. But, going back to the training aspect of things, Saturdays and Sundays were my long days. I did, like, I started out with, my base was at like 10 miles, which is an hour and a half, which is 90 minutes. So my base was at 90 minutes. And basically I built up to peak, which was 4 hours running one time at one consecutive time. I never did that following a long, bike.
Now, is
What
that
I
you
did
didn't
was
do it because the plan didn't call for it, or it wasn't your thing to do it?
no, the plan, like the plan did call for, like a couple brick workouts and stuff. Like, if you follow the Be Iron Fit book, right to the T, it's going to have you do brick workouts, on the weekends, like long and long. Um,
And for those who
Honestly,
aren't
I was so
triathletes or
exhausted.
first into it, brick is bike then run.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, like I was so exhausted on Saturdays that I was just happy to be done with get the run done and just fully complete it. Because after that, I would take like a 2 hour nap and then I would wake up and I would go and do everything else I need to do that day. Because, like, even though like you're training so much, you still have to have a little bit of a life.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, I guess I believe that, I did, there were a lot of times where it was like, I did tell people, hey, sorry, I'm training for an Ironman, like, hey, what are you doing this weekend? You want to go here? Want to go there? No, sorry, I can't. I have to go on a 4 hour bike ride. And you know what? I wasn't upset that I had to say that because it's something that I wanted to do. A lot of people in my family, so-called family, not my husband by all means, but others, were just kind of like, oh, well, like that's silly, type of thing. Like they didn't really like support the decision that I was making, which to me, I didn't care because I knew it was my goal and I knew my husband supported me 100%. But it really kind of irritated me because it was like, you could just support me and it'd be a lot easier that way.
Or
But
not say anything negative. Just that whole,
yeah,
like, if you're not
right,
going to have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Yeah, I
right,
gotcha.
right. Because, like for someone to train for an Ironman, like it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, and like you are exhausted all the time, especially when you are in your peak week, like like actually like peak month, because you'll do like a base period and then you'll do the build and then you'll do peak. And like build isn't that bad. Base and build really aren't that bad because I technically started out at the build phase because I was doing so much and I didn't really like start from like not doing anything triathlon based type of a thing. So basically it was like I started in the build phase, and I built for a long time. And then I actually reached out to John because I was like, you know, I'm following this training plan great, but I think I'm overtraining. I'm worried about overtraining in my peak periods. And, basically I sent him everything that I was doing, what I was doing, what races I had planned, like in the future, coming up through that peak period. And he basically made me a plan so that I wasn't ever going to overtrain. And I followed that right until the day of the race. I mean, obviously I had to make some adjustments and like move some workouts to like Tuesday rather than Friday or Saturday, because I was working Saturday. So, I was off Monday. So I moved some things around, according to my schedule, because I
Right.
feel like you have to be a little bit flexible too. I
Well,
mean,
and that's why, and
it's
jumping
life,
in, and not that
like,
it's anything even like what you're doing, but I'm doing, the marathon training for everything coming up, and
right,
this week is supposed to be my long run. Well, this week is also the Torrey Susquehanna local bike race, and I've,
right,
friends coming over to want to
right,
do it, and I don't want to, I love riding my bike, and I haven't done it that much, so I'm like, I really want to do it, so I just send John a message and say, hey, I'd like to do this bike ride. It's about 22 miles. It's going to take me an hour and 15 minutes. I'm supposed to do a 16 long. What do you think? He said,
right.
do the ride, add 5 to 6 miles, so that
Yep.
way and he knows enough about me at least, and to know that's going to be a good enough assimilation, like a good hard, either I do the run then the ride, or the ride then the run. It's going to have about the same effect for me training wise.
Right, exactly. And I like, I mean, it was great because like I'd reach out to John and I'd be like, hey, I'm doing this. What do you think? I mean, I didn't, I was really kind of against having a coach because, like I can do all this stuff. I went to college for exercise science. So like I can make my own workouts. I can coach other people to do this obviously, but like coaching myself is a big deal. And I have a tendency to really overtrain in a lot of aspects because I want to push myself too far, whereas other people, I don't do that. It's just myself. So it was really nice to like actually have someone to reach out to who knew what I was doing. And just, I mean, not even like to tell me what to do. It was just like, hey, I have a question. Like I know what I think I should do in the back of my mind, but what do you think? Like, it's just nice to throw something that, off of him, and then him come back and be like, well, I really don't think you should do that because you've got this workout coming up. So let's maybe just take a rest day, or go ahead, do that race that you want, but let's X-nay this workout for the day. Don't be doubling up your workouts, even though, you're running a 5K and you're not getting that distance, that you're supposed to run 13 miles, type of a thing. So it was really great in that aspect of things. I mean, I can see why people have coaches in that aspect of, training and, for different events and such, because that was something I really, really enjoyed. I don't really need it for motivation. I don't really need it, to get me the workout. I needed it to just have someone to talk to who knew the same exact plan that I was doing, because, like my husband didn't really understand what I was doing, and I couldn't really like bounce ideas off of him, because he couldn't really tell me what to do. And I just wanted someone to be like, boom, tell me what to do.
Yeah, and
So
as much as
it
even
was
like
great.
trying to talk to, and I'd say me, not that we did, but if you were to
Right.
reach out to me and say, hey, Rob, here's this, and here's what I'm thinking, without knowing all the other stuff that's going in, it's just a brief conversation in generalities. It's good to have somebody to talk specifics with. So,
Exactly. And like honestly, that's what I really liked about it. And it really did help me. I had like that other person to go to when I really needed, help, or I needed to just bounce something off of him. And
yep.
it was great. My
And
build phase lasted for a long period of time. And then I went right into peak. It was right after Memorial Day, and then I stayed in peak. Oh, peak lasted forever. I mean, it felt like it lasted forever. I was so exhausted, but it felt like it lasted forever. But it was really only a month. My taper started July 5th, and in peak, I was literally riding my bike for 5 to 6 hours. It wasn't bad. I'm not gonna lie. It really wasn't that bad. Like the first hour for me doing anything, like a long run or a long bike, I'm just like, what am I doing? I hate this, type of a thing. But then, because you've got to get your body used to it, and you've got to get your mind like to stop thinking about how long you're going to be doing it. Because physically, like I knew I was going to be fine, but it was like mentally, okay, get it out of your mind that you're going to be doing this for 4 hours and think about something else. But it was like after I got to that 1 hour mark, I was totally fine. I was just like, cool, I can run for 4 hours and not have a problem. Same with the bike. It was like, oh, like, you're on this bike for, you've been on this bike for an hour. And at first you're kind of like, oh my God, I've got like 5 more hours to go. But really, it wasn't that bad because like after your tush goes numb, you don't really have anything to worry about. You just pedal your bike and enjoy the scenery. It was nice because I did have a couple people hop in on the rides. So it kind of like deterred my, point of view from just being alone and doing it alone, which was really grateful. I'm forever grateful for that. Um, but honestly, peak just, I'm not gonna lie, when you train for an Ironman, it sucks. It literally, it rolls your life. That's all you do is eat, sleep, train, and repeat. So, and you will be extremely exhausted by the end. You cannot wait until your taper, and then taper comes, and you're like, whoa, I'm working out like an hour a day. What the hell, type of a thing. So it's just like you're so lost when you get to your taper, but you're so excited to get to your taper because too, that reward of the race is coming as well. Everything you put all that work in for is coming.
Right.
Just to jump into like the brick workouts, I didn't do them. I mean, I did a few of them, like it wasn't like I was doing a brick workout every weekend. I did a brick workout probably like 2-3 times a month. Granted, I didn't do that because I'm going to just give you a little bit of idea of what I do in a day. Like at the Y, for example, like I would come into the Y, I would have already ran and swam before I came to the Y. Well, technically I can't swim before I come to the Y, I swim at the Y. So like I had already, for example, ran like a 10K with my dogs, swam 2 miles, and then boom, up in the gym, teaching silver sneakers for an hour, boom, down in the spin studio, teaching spin for 45 minutes, and on to the next day, So I was getting enough of that, through my job that I felt like as long as I can keep going, and I felt good doing that. I mean, I literally would go like back to back everything. Like some days it would be like, okay, go run 7 miles with the dogs, hop on my road bike, ride to work, teach spin for 45 minutes, run up and teach silver sneakers, hop in the pool, and then you're done for the day. I mean, literally, that was my life. And I,
I'm going to
I didn't
jump in
really,
on a few things and then steer us towards your race. And what
yeah,
I'm going to say, for us mere mortals, don't skip your bricks. But the point
right,
behind the bricks it is because running off the bike meaning go for the bike and then go for a run, your legs are going to be tight, sore, tired, and you
right,
need to get used to that. And you did enough of them to know what that was going to feel like for you, is one part. But
exactly,
the other part behind that is part of running off the bike is running on tired legs. Let's face it, all the
right.
amount of stuff that you're doing, you were running on tired legs.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess like that's why I just kind of knew. I was like, you don't really need to spend time running on tired legs because like sometimes I would intentionally, I would not run in the morning. Like I would go through my entire workday, do all of my workouts, like completely reverse the workouts and run like my 7, 8 miles, whatever that I had to run, 6, 7, 8 miles on at the end of the day, just so that I was getting the tired legs
Yep.
effect, and honestly, obviously like I'm grateful for my job, but sometimes I kind of wished like I was like, man, I really wish I could just do this like a normal person, like I really wish I could just do a brick workout. But I didn't in that aspect of things just because of
Yeah, and
what
the way you
everything
said it there
entailed.
was great. Like a normal person, like me, I have a desk job. So most of these training plans that are set up with two-a-days are set so
Right,
that and they would tell you what's the AM, what's the PM. It would tell me to
right,
do X in the morning, then do Y in the evening because I'm separating that by sitting at my desk. But you are
exactly,
going from workout to, I'm using air quotes, workouts because you're working out at work. Yeah, that's your job to do this, and then and that's where that whole trying not to overtrain aspect of that comes in. So
Exactly. And like, and that's the thing, like, it was really, really hard for me to like not overtrain because of, I mean, like of everything that I was doing. But at the same time, it was like, now granted, like if I was tired and I went home and I was like, oh man, I'm just dragging today, and I had to run 8 miles, I'd be like, you know what, forget the 8 miles. I've done enough today. I'm running the 5. Like, because I knew I
You had
wasn't going to be
enough.
able to, yeah,
Yeah,
I
you
had
had
enough
enough in
and
the
I wasn't
bank.
going to, yeah, and I wasn't going to be able to give like 110% to that run. So it was like, still put in 45 minutes. If you feel like you can go further, go further. If not, stop, because I didn't really want to be injured. That was my big thing. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that basically was my training. I mean, it was a lot, and I'm not gonna lie. I mean, like post Ironman, I mean, I have chilled out, I guess is what my chiropractor calls it, but I haven't really chilled out. I mean, I'm still biking, and I'm not doing like the mileage running or biking as I did, during training,
Right.
but my longest
Anything is going to
ride,
be a decrease compared to where
yeah,
you were. But
yeah,
that,
yeah,
so that said, let's we're about halfway through the time allotment here. Why don't
yeah,
let's jump over it, because I mean I don't know how much you want to. I know you've recapped the race, but I mean let's talk about it. Let's talk about the trip up, if you want to. Where if
yeah.
you, where'd you stay? How was the race? How was the course? What happened during it? We got about, like I said, 20, 30 minutes here that I
Yeah.
can allocate.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and dig into all that and talk about that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I guess I chose Lake Placid because number one, I really wanted the Olympic vibe. I really love everything about the Olympics. I, was always that person that wanted to be an Olympian someday when I grew up. So I guess maybe it was like a little dream in the back of my mind that, oh, maybe if I do this, I can be an Olympian, type of thing. Obviously I'm far from being an Olympian, but I just wanted that atmosphere, and so that's why I chose it. And it was extremely hilly. So I don't know. My big thing was I said this at the beginning. I'm only doing this once. So I'm never going to do this ever again, which is a complete lie. I'm totally going to do it again, which I'll talk about later on here. Um, but I figured, you know what, go big or go home, right? If you don't choose one that's challenging, why do it? And that was my outlook. I wanted to do a challenging race,
Right.
so I chose that one. And then we left on a Thursday evening for Lake Placid. The race was on Sunday. We stayed the night in a hotel Thursday evening, and then Friday we got to Lake Placid, and we checked into our campsite. We camped, we tented, in a tent with air mattresses. I guess they weren't like huge. My husband and I backpack a lot, so we just used our 2-person tent and our little blow up air mattresses.
So now I'm
I
going to
did,
interject when I say that, and I'm just going to, for the audience at large, whenever
yeah,
my wife and I go, we stay in the hotels because I know she's putting up with enough crap for me to go do these races. So you might want to check in and see what your spouse is into. And in this case,
right,
whenever the chick says, "Hey, we're camping," the husband's going to say, "Okay," especially if the chick is the one saying, "Yeah, I'm doing the race and I'm cool camping."
yeah,
That's a much different. That's a much different attitude there than some. And I would not subject my wife to that. Not saying she's against camping at some point, but we
right,
also have
right,
our toddler, so that would not be a super
right,
fun week end for her either. So
right.
that's where I would not recommend. Maybe you can, because you've done it, you could recommend the camping. I can't say
Yeah,
that, hey, yeah, you're gonna camp. So anyways, go on.
right. Right. So we can't. I mean, I guess it's just we normally camp everywhere we go unless we can't. That's just what we do. That's just the type of people we are. Um I guess we like to save money as much as we can because we knew the Ironman was going to be expensive. So we thought, hey, 30, $40 for a campsite, at the KOA in Whiteface, like we're going to do it, and we're KOA members. So like we camp, we get a discount every place that we camp, and they're beautiful. You have like full amenities, even though I'm camping in a tent, I still have a full shower. They have, washers and dryers. There's a place you can get breakfast, if you don't want to, make everything or bring everything. I mean, there's a ton of stuff there that they have for you to, to use and utilize as you're camping.
Right.
Um, So, for us, it's just something that we normally do. So we were just cool with it. Um, so then we get there, and I don't really get a lot of anxiety at events. I guess like my big thing is, hey, you put in the work, enjoy every moment that, take it all in seriously, because, in my mind, it was like, well, I'm never going to do this again. So I'm not going to get worried about anything. I put the time, the effort in. I don't really care what the weather's going to do, because I can't really change that, up to this point. Now, granted, there are a lot of people freaking out about a lot of things that I would have never, thought to freak
Yeah.
out about. But at the same time, everyone is different, So honestly, I just kind of went with it. I really just enjoyed it. I ignored a lot of people, that were worked up over a lot of different things. And, I don't know, like I just kind of just erased the entire world around me, other than, my husband and my sister. And I just kind of enjoyed and basked in the moment. And really, like, Ironman really makes you feel kind of like an Olympian, because you're just like, you're gonna do this long race, and they want to really make it the best day and the best time of your life. So my biggest recommendation for anyone ever who wants to do this: enjoy it. Don't stress the little things. You've already put the work in. Like, seriously, just go enjoy it, and, just be proud that you've gotten to that start line, because a lot of people don't even make it to the start line. So,
Right.
um, for me, it was just like, wow, I'm here. I'm doing this. I've said this for how long? I've said this for how long? Like 4 years ago, I never even wanted to do this, and here I am. So for me, I just really enjoyed it. The day before the race, there was a couple things I didn't really, being a beginner, like I had never done an Ironman sanctioned event ever. I've done, like other events that, are either USA Triathlon events, but they're not like Ironman branded events. So there's a lot of confusion in some areas that I didn't know. I had no idea I had to like drop all of your like run bag, swim bag, bike bag, all of that, and get all of your food and stuff ready the day before the race. I just thought I could get it ready, like Saturday night, and just take it down into the transition areas on Sunday morning. Well, no, I didn't know that. I thought you just had to take your bike. So that, an hour later, I'm getting everything ready. I was a little frustrated with that, because when you go to Lake Placid, it's such a small town that like you have to park like a mile and a half, to 2 miles away. And of course, it's like the day before the race, I want to stay off my feet as much as I can.
Yep.
But here I
Yep.
am walking like 7 miles, back and forth from our truck to get all of my crap ready for the race. So that was kind of a little bit, just something I just annoyed me a little bit. Um, and maybe if I would have asked questions, at packet pickup on Friday, it would have been, would have been an easy fix. But I guess I had never done that before. So it was like, okay, they're literally just going to tell me everything I need to do. And that really didn't happen. So
I'm going to interject because I've never done
yeah,
a Ironman branded, but that's one thing, and they must say they require it for the New York City Triathlon. Is you before you can pick up your bib, they make you go sit through like a half hour, 45-minute athlete briefing, and they go
yes,
through all of that stuff for that
yep,
reason. So every race venue, every race organization is going to be a little different in their policies, procedures, and so forth. So definitely, if you have the opportunity to this to the crowd or to you, if you have the opportunity to go look
right,
at that stuff online beforehand, if they give you a packet like an on
yep,
athlete's
yep,
guide, check that stuff out because you
yep,
don't want to have any surprises.
yep. And I mean, they did have the athlete briefings, and I went to those, but they never. I guess like it would have been really great, helpful if they knew I was a first timer. You have to answer that question when you register. If like they could have just stuck like a 5 bullet little piece of paper in my bag, like at packet pickup, to just be like, make sure you do this, make sure you do this. Like what I mean, I honestly, I'm a race director. I do a lot of different races, for the Y, and like I would have definitely done that for a beginner, just because if you've never done that before, and it was, I don't know, I just kind of thought the athlete briefing would give me more information, but it never did, which hey, I mean, it is what it is. Every race is different, but at the same time, it did kind of like frustrate me a little bit, the day before the race. That was probably the only time I was ever like stressed because,
Yeah.
like it was just like, what? Like everything else is like going great. And then I've got this, thrown into the mix. But yeah, so you know, I actually said to my husband, I'm like, I want to get away from Lake Placid. I mean, not that I didn't want to be in Lake Placid the day before, but I didn't want to cause anything to make me stressed. I guess like mentally for me, I wanted to be as far away from it as I could because I wanted to wake up the next morning and be like, good to go. Hey, whatever happens with the weather, it happens. You're not going to be able to fix it. Deal with it. I didn't want to hear a lot of different racers stressing out about different things that could happen that they can't really change, when,
Right.
you can't really do that. So we actually went to Vermont the rest of the day. We rode a ferry over to Vermont, hung out in Vermont, came back, went to sleep, woke up at 4 o'clock on Sunday morning, the day of the race. I basically just got dressed. I didn't put any chafing cream on, totally forgot about it. Because you're so excited and you're just like, oh my gosh, do I have everything? Am I
Yep.
drinking enough water? Am I going to the bathroom? I need to make sure I'm eating, because it's a very, very long day and you just want to make sure that you're eating because the biggest issue I did not want to have was having my blood sugar like plummet
Right.
and not being able to get it back up because obviously I'm not going to be able to finish the race if that happened.
Yeah.
So it was just like eat, but make sure you're not making yourself sick, type of a thing. You're keeping everything down. And so we ate, we got to the venue, hung out with my husband and, my sister. And it was just like fun. It was like I was ready to go. I didn't have any anxiety. I guess I knew I didn't have anything to worry about physically. The hardest part that day was going to be mentally. And, the weather was calling for some rain. And obviously, there, the mountains at the Adirondacks, you climb throughout the bike 6,600 feet. So obviously, when you hit some of the elevation, you might encounter some things you didn't encounter in training, type of a thing. And so, said goodbye to my husband and my sister, weaved my way down into the swim time. And I'm going to tell you guys this right now. I can swim much faster than a 120, but in all of my training books and all the things that I read about where to place yourself for the swim, they suggested that you start 10 minutes slower. So technically I could have swam it in an hour and 10 minutes, but they say, seed yourself 10 minutes slower than what you normally would swim it. So,
Yeah, it's going to be a long day.
yeah,
If you
start
go
slow.
super hard on the swim, you're burning energy that you might not have or get back later.
Exactly. And that was the big thing too. It was like, I basically did all of my training in heart rate zones. Like I trained, in specific heart rate zones. So like my biggest fear was getting my heart rate spiked and then not being able to bring it back down, because then if you do that, you're screwed, type of a thing. You've already wasted a lot of energy that you didn't really need to waste, and you're going to make a really long day make it be an extremely long day. So, like I just kind of started slower. When I do my next one, I will definitely start in my 110, just because the swim at Lake Placid, I mean, it was absolutely beautiful. I loved Mirror Lake. They actually stretch like a lane cord that's in a lane line around the lake, so you can actually kind of like see yourself. So if you're used to swimming in a pool and you're not used to swimming outdoors in the open water, you can actually kind of like keep yourself on line, which was great. But it was such an aggressive swim. I've never been in anything like that in my entire life. Everyone was just like trying to like get the person ahead of them, and it spent a lot of time like trying to weave out and around people. It was like they just constantly wanted to touch you and be near you. So I know like for myself, I'm going to start at a faster seed the next time I would do one, just so that I'm away from all of that chaos. It didn't cause me like too much stress, but like the second lap, I was just kind of like, all right, I'm ready to be done with this. I'm ready to have people stop swimming over me. I'm ready to have people not grabbing my feet. Like, I mean, I almost had someone rip off my chip, and there goes my time, for the race, So it
Yep.
was like, right, at the end, it was just kind of like, it was starting to stress me out. And I'm like, I'm just ready to be out of the water and done. The water temperature was 75. I did not wear a wetsuit. I'm an extremely strong swimmer. So I did not need it to keep warm or keep myself afloat because I have no problem doing that. And honestly, that was just more time I'd have to spend taking it off, and you have to take it off on the beach. And I didn't really want to spend the rest of my day picking sand out of my tri-suit or getting, an irritation from sand. So I just said, heck with it. Nope, I'm totally cool with it. So I finished the swim. I can't even remember how long it took me, like an hour and 22 minutes, I think. Just because of all the chaos, it would have taken me way less than that without that chaos. But it's a long day, so I really wasn't concerned about it. Um, then I ran down in transition, grabbed my bike bag, ran into the tent. They give you different tents, like for the Ironman, men's and women's. So you can change, like if you fully want to change out of your tri-suit, you can. I did not. I stayed in it. I just slid on like padded biking shorts because my bum would probably be pretty numb after 112 miles in my tri-suit and the little padding that it has in it. So I just slid on some, simple biking shorts, my helmet, my gloves, my cleats, obviously my socks. Some people don't wear socks. I did not practice training, without socks, so I put socks on. Ate, a little bit of something. I got to see my husband and my sister, and they took some pictures of me and cheered me on, and which was nice. Went to the restroom and was out on the bike course. Um, the volunteers actually grab your bike when you're like running down through. They look at your numbers on your body and on your bibs and stuff, and they literally go grab your bike and bring your bike to you. And your bike, the morning of the race, has like before you start the race, it has everything you need on it to get on that bike right then and there. So which is cool. You don't have to worry about any of that. Grabbed my bike, went to the start line and mounted and was off. It did start to rain slightly. It wasn't bad. It was like on and off. The course is hilly. I knew that from the get-go. I was totally prepared for that. So,
Right.
you're climbing up your first hill and you're hot, like you're sweating. You're like, oh my God, I got to do this for 112 miles. And then you get to the top and you're like, oh, that wasn't that bad. And then you go down a hill, and then you repeat it. And then you're coming up through the descent where you're climbing into where you go through like the Olympic bobsled and the speed skating area.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, I have never trained in anything like I rode in that day. It started to pour, hail, you're climbing up the incline and then all of a sudden it's hailing, and you're just like, oh my gosh. And you're going down the hill and like my Cannondale weighs like 12 pounds and I weigh like 135 pounds. So like all I wanted to do was just cruise down this hill. But number one, the freshly paved road was soaked. So all the oil is up on the road. It's hailing, it's pouring. You can barely see because your glasses, are, you don't have windshield wipers on your glasses for your helmet. And, the crosswinds were just coming at like 50 miles per hour. I mean, it was not a thing I ever trained for. And I don't think I could ever mimic that
Yeah, I don't know how
trying to
anybody
practice.
could train for
Like,
that.
like it was, it was just something I was like, oh my God. But in the back of my mind, the guy that I biked with a lot, I just kept going, Mike would be so proud of you. Do not fall off your bike. Just keep going. And so I just kept going. I mean, it wasn't obviously the greatest racing conditions at all, and a lot of people crashed. I mean, there was so many DNFs in Lake Placid this year due to those conditions because people just weren't, I guess, careful in that aspect of things. I mean, coming down some of those descents, I felt my hands were going to break off because I was squeezing my brakes so bad because I didn't want to fall off my bike. I wanted to finish that race. I was so determined. But yeah, the first lap was pretty freaking brutal. I mean, the first 56 miles, I didn't even really think about riding that far because I was seriously so concerned about don't fall off your bike, keep going, no matter how hard it gets. Even like I even got like kind of chilled,
Mm-hmm.
some at some points when you're going, you're climbing up to the elevation, then you're coming back down, and you're like, whoo, you're cold because you just swam and then it's raining. So I actually was kind of thinking about hypothermia. I'm like, oh my God, like I didn't even like pack anything warm to put on. And but there were enough hills, and I always like there were a bunch of people around me, and I'd be like, all right guys, it's time to warm up. So as you climb up the hill, you get warm, and then you go back down and get a little chilled and repeat. But after the first lap, the sun came out, like it was like overcast, but it stopped raining, and the roads were completely dry. So not too sure if anyone's familiar with Lake Placid, but before we go on, it's a two loop swim, a 2-loop bike, and a 2-loop run. So you do the same loop twice
So you
throughout,
get to see what's
both loops.
coming, and you
Yeah.
do it. In this case, much safer. This
Yes.
lap
Yes.
around.
Yes. So the second lap around, I was extremely grateful to see that, and I was like, yes, I can actually I can enjoy these downhills, because and my hands aren't gonna fall off. So I really enjoyed the second lap. I got to see my husband and my sister a few times throughout the course. So and I was really at a really good state mentally there, which I was really grateful for because like in your mind you think about going that far and you're like, oh man, you think you're going to be so bad off in that mental aspect of things. No, you're actually pretty pumped up, and I guess I was really pumped up because I had seen a lot of people fall off the bikes and wreck, and I didn't even know if they were going to be able to finish, and I was just so happy that I was able to be there at that point in the race and nothing bad had happened for me. um, so I finished, came in the town. I guess like it Lake Placid is so special because all these people are cheering for you and they have no idea who you are. And then you're in like this town with like that's held the Olympic Games, so it's like you kind of get like chilled whenever you like come in because you're just like, wow, like this is so cool. You get to see like the Olympic oval, and you just have that like Olympic vibe with you the whole time, even though you're not really like an Olympian, but you're there, and it's just a magical little town, and I truly love that aspect
Yeah.
of it. And then I'm not gonna lie, honestly, I didn't even like think about running a marathon the entire race or like the entire time I was in Lake Placid until it was time to demount. Come into the demount position. I jump off my bike and I'm just like, oh my God, like 50% of my brain's going, oh my God, you have to run a marathon. And the other 50% is going, Vanessa, it is 4 hours and it's 26.2 miles. You've already done 114.4. Don't worry about it, type of a thing. So
Right.
it's funny how your brain plays games with you,
Right.
and mentally. So, I mean, mentally, like physically, I was ready to go. It was mentally, that was extremely the tough part. Um, I consumed all of my calories on the bike, and I normally trained in like 80 to 90 degrees and 100% humidity. Obviously race day conditions were total opposite of that, but I still continued eating and drinking as the way that I did when I trained. So I didn't change anything in that aspect of things. When I go back round two, I will change those things. I was just so concerned. I wanted to make sure my blood sugar didn't drop. So I didn't want to mess anything up to cause that.
Right.
And, then I get into the run, I change into my running sneakers, take all my bike gear off, and I go. And I started out really great. Mentally, I felt really great. And then I hit like the first hour in mile 7, I'm like, oh boy, I don't feel that great. And all of my fuel that I had ate, obviously probably didn't really digest, and I probably ate maybe a little bit too much, because it wasn't as hot, as anticipated.
Right.
And so I had some serious stomach issues from like mile 7 until like mile 15 and 16, and it caused me to walk a lot. I just had to, and I guess like in my mind, like I was like, no, you can't walk. But then at the same time, I'm like, yes, you're going to walk because you're nauseous. And I mean, it was like anything I would eat or drink at the aid station, I just want to throw it back up type of a thing.
I've
It was
never
like,
done the Ironman, but I know anyone out there listening at this point, I'm going to interject. I'm going to say the newbies or whatever. Hey, I do a sprint. That's nothing like what you're doing. But I've been where I'm not going to say things go wrong, but when you're out for longer than anticipated, because you're a fast marathoner, you're around a 4 hour, and that's what you had just said.
right,
That's what you're
right,
looking at. But this isn't a marathon. This is a marathon after you had just said, hey, I've already done 114 miles. I'm going to go ahead and just get this thing completed.
right, right, right. And like, and the thing is too, like, I mean, I guess I was just like, I knew it was probably going to take me, but like 4.5, 5 hours. But I guess I didn't expect to have all those issues along with it, because in training, I never had any issues.
Right.
Even if I did brick workouts, nothing, all the stuff that I used the day of the race did not upset my stomach. So it was just a fluke thing, and you just gotta deal with it. So I dealt with it. I would run and I would walk some. I basically just got to the point where it's like, you want to finish this. So if you need to walk until get some relief, or you walk until you throw up, and you feel better, do it. So I did that. And then gratefully, like by mile 18, I was feeling good. I'm not by all means not wonderful, but I was feeling way much better than what I was before. And I had
Right.
met some
You
people,
felt way good comparative.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And like, I mean, I met some people, like, I don't know, who just, you were talking to as you're running, and it was just kind of nice to just like, all these people are in the same boat as me. You know what I mean? Like, we're gonna finish this. And then I don't know, like, I'm a big Bon Jovi person, so I've always been a big Bon Jovi fan. So like, I hit 20 miles. Like, even in any marathon I've ever done, I always need to see 20 miles, and then I'm like, okay, this is cake for me, just because I'm like, it's only 6 more miles. That's it. I can run 6 miles, and
Yep.
so I saw my 20-mile marker, and then one of the volunteers who were out handing out base salts was like jamming to Bon Jovi, and they've got the big speakers, and I literally was just like, I literally looked around at everyone. I'm like, guys, you have 6 more miles. We can do this. I was so pumped up, and
You were that person. See, I'm one of them
yeah,
guys standing
yeah,
on the side saying,
yeah,
what the beep is
yeah,
she saying? But
yeah.
yeah,
I got a
continue.
lot of looks. Like, I got a lot of looks, but I was just like, come on, like, this is all we have. Like, it's 6 miles. You've just done how many? You can do 6 more miles. And I guess, like, that's how I broke up the entire race. Like, I never made it one big long event. I broke it up into many little pieces. And I
Yeah.
think that's why I was so good at that point mentally, because it was just like, 6 miles, that's it. You know what I mean? And, as you're coming back into town and people are cheering for you, they don't even know who you are. And honestly, it brought a lot of tears in my eyes, because you say to yourself for so long, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. And you've trained for it for so long that you're in that moment and you're just like, wow,
Well,
it's going to
you had
end
just
pretty
said,
soon.
you went through a 6 months of a formal training cycle, six
Right,
months of training before that. This is a year of your life culminating,
right,
basically or longer, but at
right.
least a year at this moment. Yeah, it's going to be a little emotional.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm really not an emotional person. I mean, you can ask my husband. I don't really cry about anything. Unless it's something, very near and dear to my heart and soul. And, for this race, for me, it was also something that I had lost my grandmother 2 years prior to doing this. And I said to my husband, I said, honestly, to get over this, because my gram was like my mom. We were very, very close, and honestly, it broke my heart, because I thought that, I just always thought she was going to be there. I never, ever in my entire life thought she was ever going to not ever be there, physically.
Right.
And I mean, I know she was there spiritually, but just not physically. So it was one of those things for me as well, that it was just like, it kind of, all of that time that I spent doing that made me get over that and grieve, in that aspect of ways, because I can't, not everyone, understands how you're feeling when that happens. And it was a great way for me to just kind of get that out too. So it was very emotional in that aspect of things. It was like, yeah, I literally, I told my husband, I was like, I'm going to have to do an Ironman to do this, to get over this. And I did it. And it was just an absolute wonderful journey. I mean, I finished it, I think a little bit before, it was like 10 till 10 at night. And, of course, like I didn't really want to cry coming across the finish line, but like as you're running down through and you're running like the last mile and you hit like the oval where, in, 25, 0.25 mile, you're going to be crossing that finish line. You get emotional. I did cry up until that point, and you're so oblivious to what's going on because you're just like, the lights are so bright and they're shining in your eyes, and you're just like, oh my gosh, like it's such a long day. And it's kind of funny because like my husband and my sister were like videoing me, and my husband put out his arm for me to like slap his hand. I had no idea he even did that. I was just so focused on crossing the finish line and not falling over or, like crawling. It was just, I just really wanted to take in that moment, because at that point I was like, I don't think I'm ever going to do this ever again, type of a thing. And the lights seriously are so bright. So be prepared if you do this, because you're going to be like blinded running into the finish line, because you're like, oh, and like people are taking your picture and it's just like, oh my gosh. And people are yelling your name and congratulating you. And it's just so chaotic. And you're like, and you're literally trying to take it all in your mind and go, wow, I'm an Ironman, like I just did this, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm alive, like, yeah, I made it, and it's just an unreal feeling. And seriously, if you guys want to do this, I can't even tell you how awesome it is. I mean, it's a lot of time to train, and it is, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, through that whole period. It's tough. I'm not going to lie. It's so tough. But like when you cross that finish line, it's so worth it. It's just amazing. So, for me, it was just like, I didn't really feel that bad, but all I wanted to do they're grabbing you, they're putting a blanket around you, they're handing you your medal, like, come over here, take your picture, and all I wanted was just someone to just unlace my shoelaces, like, I'm like, can someone just unlace my shoelaces? I just, cause my feet get really tired when I run a marathon.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted my shoelaces to be loose. And, it took them so long, and they're trying to shove like, pizza and French fries and wings in my mouth. And I'm like, no, I'm really nauseous. I just want a Coke. I just want to sit down, relax for a few minutes, sip this Coke, and go see my husband and my sister, who I haven't seen all day. And honestly, it was just, I mean, and like there were other people who were, eating immediately right after the race. Me, I just couldn't tolerate it. I mean, I could barely even, I sipped the flat Coke that they gave out at the aid stations. The rest of the race, I didn't even eat anything during the run, because I was so nauseated and so sick that I couldn't, which worried me. But honestly, I was fine by the end. I felt great. So, I was grateful I didn't have any issues in that aspect. But then I saw my husband and my sister, and I literally said to my husband, I was like, please remind me to never, when I get this crazy idea, to just remind me that I never want to do this ever again. And he started laughing, because he knows exactly how I am.
See, I think I got a text from you. I don't know if it was that night or the next day, and it was, I'm done. I loved it. I'm never doing it again. I think my only response was, give it a week.
Yeah, exactly. And I texted Rob that, and I mean, I'm not going to lie, my body was so physically adapted to the training and training on tired legs. I was just a little bit sore, like my hip flexors were a little sore, my quads and my hams. But other than that, I thought I'd be a lot sorer than what I really was, for doing that all in one day. And I took 5 days off after the race. I didn't do a single thing, running, swimming, biking, nothing, because mentally you need a break, and physically I needed a break from the daily grind. Not gonna lie though, by Wednesday I was itching. I need to do something. I took my dogs for a couple hikes. That was pretty much all that I had done after. But it wasn't anything strenuous. I did my first workout the Saturday. It would have been like the 6th day, and after that, I just kind of kept going and easy, like, because I'm not going to lie, the workout that I did on Saturday, I had lifted weights for an hour, and then I had ran 2 miles. My run was fine, but like lifting weights, it was very hard for me. It was very challenging. It was, because your body is like, you put your body through hell and back for the Ironman, and like you're not really recovered. And I just kind of like jumped into it like, oh yeah, I'm just going to do what I did before, you know? And it was kind of silly of me to do that because there were points where I was like kind of nauseous and stuff. And it was just like, maybe it's too soon. But then I ran an hour later and I was fine, with the run. It was just weightlifting's a different
The
beast,
cardio is much, I'm not going to say easier, but
Right.
it was better for you than lift heavy things.
Right, exactly. And I mean, like when you're dropping your head below your heart quickly and you're just like, whoa, you're kind of dizzy. So it was just one of those things. And then I went on I think it was a 25-mile bike that Sunday, and I was fine. Um, and then I started easing back into my workouts. I think I swam about, I think 2 weeks later. I honestly, I just took it easy for like 2 weeks, and I kind of like just basked in my enjoyment of
In the
completing it,
glory.
yeah, in the glory of doing it. So, but I am choosing my next one here shortly. By the end of October, I will have my next one on the list, and registered for. Currently, I am looking at Lake Placid again, just because I kind of want to go back. I don't know,
It,
has a very special place in my heart. I thought about one of our relatives. One of mine and Rob's friends is actually doing the Cambridge Ironman here at the end of September. And before I register, I really want to talk to him about some specifics of the race and see how he does, and just kind of I have some questions about it that why I'm not jumping the gun to register right away for that. But we'll see. There's going to be one in 2019, and then there's going to be one in 2020. So I plan on doing one a year, for now. And my husband is fully supportive of that. So, which is great, because
it's great
honestly,
to have that family support, especially if you're
yeah,
going to continue to do
yeah,
these. And
yes,
I'm gonna wrap us up here a little. And I'm gonna
yeah,
circle back, wrap up though, because we're leaning in on, well, two things: a long show,
yep,
and I have
yep,
something I
that's
need to
fine.
get out on. But I was gonna say it's great to have that family support. And may or may not, you and I had talked offline about obligating you to anything here, but
Yeah,
and this will be a total cliffhanger for a super long
yeah,
time. But
yeah,
people can to hit you up in the group and see what's upcoming for you. And should you, I'm just going to be vague enough on this, should you pursue or want to do some of those things that you and I had talked about offline, then I could very much see you coming back on early next year or through the year maybe to talk about a few of those things as well. So
oh yeah,
I'm
yeah,
going to leave that vague out there.
yeah,
And if once again people want to hear more or of it, they can,
yeah.
they can hit up, John or myself, and I'll cut a little outro here after, in a little bit, where I'll give that information. But is there anything else you wanted to go ahead and say or interject at this point?
No, I mean, honestly, guys, like, seriously, like, if you like if you want to do an Ironman, like, do it. Like, and make sure whenever you do it, like, you go full force into it. Because you want to have a really good experience. I mean, for me, I had a really great first time experience. And I know a lot of other people that I've talked to, they really haven't had, a great experience, just for different reasons and such. And and it kind of breaks my heart that they've had that, because I love everything about Iron Man. Like, it changed my life, honestly. And I don't ever see myself, not participating in the Ironman branded events. Like, I had such a wonderful time, and it was such a great, just overall, just a great experience for me and, my family support team. And, we'll definitely be back, and I'm grateful I've had that, because there's some who don't. So, just remember too, like, if you can dream it, you can believe it, you can do it, so don't ever think that, if you're just doing sprint triathlons, that you'll never do an Ironman. Because trust me, 4 years ago, if you would have asked me if I was going to do this, or if that was in my to-do list, my bucket list, whatever, I would have said no. I had no interest to do it whatsoever, and here I am, an Ironman 4 years later, and I really had no intent to do it, but I got into it and I loved it, and I just kept going. I kept wanting to challenge myself to that next level. So just remember that you can do anything you set your mind to, even if it's just a little blurb in the back of your mind. If you really want to do it, because you've got to challenge yourself. You got to get out there and you got to do it every day. But yeah,
I don't
that's
think
pretty
I could
much it,
say
Rob, so.
anything any better than that whatsoever. Well, I thought there was a lot of great information in that, including and really just kind of jumping to her talking about camping. I mean, that's pretty tough. You're going to do one of the toughest races, out there, with the exception of, talking about from last month's ultras, with Sean and Megan and Chris, talking about these multi-day races where you're, trying to find your own shelter during. But still, most people, want to get pampered and really pay attention to everything. And here she goes with her husband, and they, camp and decide to go visit another state and just, hang out. And it's just a whole different mindset whenever you're getting to that level of competition and what you're looking at. But it really boils down to, it sounded like she said she was really prepared and felt that she was ready for this challenge, and she didn't want to let other people's agendas really dictate her day. So, I don't really think I need to say much else. Thought she covered it all very well. Just want to go ahead and thank all of you guys for listening in on our show here. Say if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to write to John or I, John at enduranceforeveryone.com, Rob at enduranceforeveryone.com. If you haven't done so, please leave us a rating and a review out on iTunes or podcast or Podbean, or wherever you listen to these podcasts. Share it with a friend, and if you're one of our streamers, we have a lot of folks who are streaming, and if you're in the group, John has said some of this stuff recently, great. We love having you. But if you have the opportunity, please, click download. Go through iTunes or wherever else you can download this or listening to it. It really, they track the show's statistics, and more downloads could definitely help potential, when I say sponsors down the road. We don't want this to be an ad heavy, 15 ads per show, but it would be nice to help John offset some of the cost of the bandwidth, because the listeners are getting up there, and it would be nice to make sure that we can keep all of the episodes live and free for you guys. So tune in next week, and we're going to have a subject matter expert on for swimming. He's another friend of mine that I know from up here in the Clearfield area. His name is Brian. He's been a lifelong swimmer, and we're going to go through his swimming career, both in high school and recreationally, and then competitively in college. But it's not an episode solely about turning lanes in the pool there. We were trying to get into some of the differences about swimming competitively versus swimming for triathlon, the differences in training, and Brian gives a lot of his, I'm going to say, best training tips for both newbies and those can carry through for experienced, whether you're just a swimmer or looking to swim for triathlon. The week following Brian's interview, John and I are going to sit down and discuss biking for triathlon versus biking competitively, the differences there in training. Surprise, the last portion of the month is going to be running. You swim, bike, run. We're going to talk once again about the differences between running and running for triathlon and training. Once again, this has been another episode of the Endurance for Everyone podcast. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Endurance for Everyone podcast. If you have comments or questions for the show, send an email to teamE4E at enduranceforeveryone.com. And remember, swim calm, bike strong, and run steady.